All right, folks, welcome in to a very special episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter. Brought to you by Superbook Sports, as we mentioned, partnered with Mile High Sports, and also partnered with a very special guest who is now more than a guest, who is now more than just a special voice in the Twitter sphere, just a special voice with an awesome YouTube channel in the YouTube sphere. We are partnering together with my friend Swipa Cam over here, and I am so excited to get this going because I think Nuggets fans deserve to hear Swipa's voice on the MHS platform as well. We are simulcasting to both his YouTube channel and the MHS YouTube channel at the same time, and I am really excited about the way that this is going to go, Swipa. Are you excited, man? This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited, man. I've been looking forward to this opportunity. You know, Ryan and I, as y'all know, we worked together a couple of times, man, and I obviously been a big fan of his work for years. I'm talking about since you was just doing the podcast and with, you know, so it's been great, man. I'm really excited and thankful for Mile High Sports as well. The opportunity, man. I think the content that we're going to make is going to be really special, so I can't wait to get to it.
It's going to be great. We're obviously broadcasting this at noon on Sunday, and we are doing weekends with Swipa Cam. This is going to be kind of the setup going forward for everything, where I have one episode a week at least for the rest of the season to air on the weekends. We're really excited to get this going because this is, I think, an area where I've definitely struggled with before. I haven't had as much fun in terms of being able to engage with the audience and being able to just enjoy this basketball season. And there's nobody that enjoys this more than Swipa. There's nobody that enjoys this more than getting into the discourse, understanding just how important it is to push a guy like Nikola Jokic and these Denver Nuggets and showcasing just how great they can be. And there's no better way to do this than to, I think, combine us together and have kind of my analytical tone. I've been described as calm and reserved and not necessarily as boisterous and as fiery as somebody like Swipa is. So I'm hoping we get a good dynamic on this show. I have no doubt that this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great. You know, I think that we offer unique perspectives, and I think that, you know, you represent a part of the city, the history of the city, and I do as well. And I think, you know, being able to combine that's going to be really good. And, you know, I think that our unique takes on the Denver Nuggets and really the NBA at large is going to really serve to some really great and instrumental conversations of how do you understand basketball on a game-by-game basis within, you know, the flow of the season and what that looks like. And then now, obviously, as we're gearing towards the end of the season, last 18 games, what this looks like leading into the playoffs and what are some playoff matchups you can look into, you know, what are some narratives and storylines you need to be aware of. So, yeah, I think it's going to be good, bro.
And you do the narratives extremely well. You do everything. Like, this is going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got a really nice pop-ups on the YouTube comments as well. That's pretty cool. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to all of the discourse that we're going to provide, all the clips that are going to come out of this show where we're getting fiery. We're getting all of these spread around, and Philly fans and Milwaukee fans going to be so mad. It's going to be great. But in general, just looking forward to it. We are going to now get into our flow. The flow of these podcasts are going to be as follows, folks. Because this is a weekend show, we're going to try to recap the week. We're going to try to get into a flow where we're going to talk about the week that was, a major topic in the middle, and then the week that will be. That'll be our three segments that we try to get into on a consistent basis. And we might flip some things around here or there depending on what happens. But on these weekend shows, that's what you can expect from us. So Swipa, let's get into it. Let's talk about the week that was. And we got to start with that Clippers game. I know it was on Sunday, but it's within the last 24 hours from when we're recording. We had the Clippers game that went into OT. You have the Rockets game this last Tuesday that Denver blew them out. And then you have the Grizzlies win on Friday, where those games going 3-0 during this stretch. I think these Nuggets have really turned a corner during this last week, and I think that they've proved it on a national audience as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's been most interesting, you know, the Clippers, as of the All-Star break, there were some GMs that were still saying the Clippers could be the favorite to come out of the Western Conference. And so with all the stuff that's happened since they signed Russell Westbrook, now they've gone 0-5. But before all this, there was talk that they were going to end up being one of the elite teams in the NBA. And even fairly, I said they're going to be a top 3 seed when the season first started because of all the talent they had. So the Nuggets have already played them 3 times in 3 double-digit wins, and they had another opportunity to play them for the 4th time and close out the season series with a sweep. And everything that you could have asked for. There was high-level play. There was a playoff-level atmosphere. The superstars, they were going down the stretch of the 4th quarter, basket for basket. And the other players, the other guys, the role players and the other stars, they had to step up and they had to make plays. They had to execute down the stretch. You saw that from Jamal Murray. You saw that from KCP. And you saw it in a huge way from Michael Porter Jr. And you got a chance to see the Denver Nuggets, when they get into a situation where they need to rely on shot making, defense, and execution. You saw it again versus Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers on Sunday. So it was a really, really, really terrific matchup last week.
I gotta love it where Denver faces adversity. They haven't really faced adversity a ton this year, where you go 45-19 on the season and you're going to have some blowout wins in there. But Denver has also scraped out some wins where you're going up against these really tough teams. And I think you saw that both against the Clippers and against the Memphis Grizzlies, where things didn't go perfectly. Things didn't go well for this team, and yet they were able to pull it out, and they did it in different ways. With the Clippers, they couldn't really stop the Clippers, but they outscored them. And Jokic, who Richard Jefferson was complaining on Friday night that he wasn't scoring as much as he needed to, Jokic was coming off of putting up 40 on the Clippers in OT. And like that's still a thing that he can do, obviously. And then they won with defense against Memphis, where they hold that team to 97. That is a crazy number. And now they've done it twice to the Grizzlies in Denver. So I like that they can win in different ways, and I like that they can win in explosive ways, both like I think on the court, but also narratively.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed, Ryan, is that they played the Clippers, they played the Rockets, and they had this huge kind of last chance matchup with the Memphis Grizzlies, where if you win this game, you can really shut the door for the most part on the first seed. So they go into Houston, and again, you know, there were some points in that game where Houston kind of made it a little bit of a game, but granted, they're a very young roster. Coaching can be up and down at times, and so you expected them to pull out that win, which they did. Only took a 14-point triple-double from Jokic, so not a lot was needed. And then obviously Jamal Murray had a good game. And then versus Memphis, this was all about not just setting a narrative, but also setting the tone for the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. As good as you are, and as good as you might think that you are, when we decide to turn up, and this is what I love, Ryan, they're in the game, and they started off 0 of 11 from 3, and yet they're making it a 5-point game, 6-point game. And then by the time half comes around, it's 58-50 Memphis over the Nuggets, and it's an 8-point game. And it got to an 11-point game in the third quarter. But we've seen the Nuggets time and time again this year where even if they're down by double digits, if there's enough time on the clock, you really can't get comfortable with Denver because they're eventually going to start to hit their stride. KCP makes a play. Aaron Gordon makes a play. Jokic makes a play. Murray makes a play. Porter makes a play. Bruce Brown is making plays. Defense starts to pick up. And next thing you know, it's an 80-80 game to close out the third quarter. And then Ryan, 33-17 finish in the fourth quarter. It was tremendous. It was one of the most impressive wins of the year.
And the dude in that situation and making sure that you really kind of stamp what you are as a playoff contender. And then I think that you see the difference between a team like Memphis and a team like Denver, that when the pressure gets ratcheted up and both teams are really going for it, Denver had that extra gear and Memphis just didn't. And I think that the Clippers, it's kind of the same thing where you have both of those teams in both of those matchups, and Denver just dug deep and they found that. I really do think that Jamal and Nikola are the crux of that, where you're going to have everybody else, everybody who's filling in their role admirably. I think Michael Porter Jr. obviously had a great week, and we should mention that for sure. But I do think that when Jamal is locking in the way that he is, making those baskets in that fourth quarter, and then Nikola kind of shuts the door against the Clippers and does it in so many different ways. Both of those guys have that mentality, and it's kind of that resiliency mentality that they had back in 2020 in the bubble. And they're just going to outlast you. They're just going to go to that 8th round in boxing. They're going to go to they're going to go to the distance. That's just who they are as players, and it's who this team is, I think.
Ryan, I have a question for you, brother. So I think the difference is, you brought up that great 2020 run, and I think a lot of people missed that in that game 5-ish of the Western Conference first round versus the Utah Jazz, one of the game-changing pieces was Gary Harris, because defensively, when he actually came back into the lineup after injury, he really changed the tone for what the Denver Nuggets were able to do. And Ryan, I think that what's helped them is that not only do I think they arguably, even though the Kings have the best offense on paper, I think the Nuggets have the clear best offense in the NBA. And again, if the Kings don't score 176 points versus the supposable formidable defense Los Angeles Clippers, they wouldn't be there. But for me is, not only do you have the offensive ceiling of, I think, the greatest offensive player in the NBA right now, with Murray, with Porter, and even with Gordon, but I think their defensive ceiling is higher than it's ever been. And so when you need to not just get stopped, but Ryan, when you need to shut the door defensively, they're able to do that in ways I don't think they have been. So for you, like, do you think a part of what made them such a formidable clutch team, such a formidable fourth quarter team and a home team is their defensive ability to raise their ceiling when the time comes?
Well, it's never been a problem to score, right? This team, they've never had issues with that. Jokic is he's a cheat code. I mean, it took losing his two best scorers around him and not having a great fitting roster around him to lower the team to 6th in offensive rating. Like, they are an elite offense, and you're never gonna hear anybody question that. But the defensive rating and the ability to lock it in the clutch, they're first in defensive rating in the clutch this year. They have a great fourth quarter defensive rating. Anytime the games really, truly matter to them, they've locked in on the defensive end, and they can do it throughout the game. It doesn't necessarily have to be all the time because their offense is so good. They pick and choose their spots, again, like a boxer, where you don't necessarily have to go full bore for the entire time, or else you're going to tire yourself out. This team, they pick and choose their spots and know when to lock in. And you're right, because they have that gear, because they've shown that gear, I have so much more belief in them being able to do it when the time comes in the playoffs. They know when they're going to have to lock in. They had to lock in during that 2020 run in Game 5 of the Western Conference first round. And if they don't do it then they're never going to do it. And so I just believe in the mentality and the ethos of this team and understanding what it takes to win at the highest level.
And I think maybe the biggest proponent of that is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And I know you remember when the Denver Nuggets were 28th ranked defense in the NBA at the time when we asked him.
I was furious, my guy. I was furious. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how is this possible?
Michael Malone says they're going to be top 5, and then you're the bottom 2 in the NBA, basically. Right. And so I think KCP said at the time, like, you have to commit to playing defense. You got to play connected to play elite level defense. And Ryan, I don't think anybody embodies that maybe better than KCP, because some of those stops that he had on Ja Morant on Friday were ridiculous. Like, his ability to shuffle his feet, his ability to draw offensive fouls by getting over screen, by staying connected as a defender. And then he had that defensive foul, when Ja Morant ended up trying to cross him over. And then because his leverage was so good, he ends up hitting his neck versus his body and gets called for a foul, but it's a clear stop. KCP has been a tone setter for the Denver Nuggets. And while, again, because of traditional defense, you got Jokic and Aaron Gordon that are anchoring the defense, having KCP on the perimeter with Jamal Murray and then with Bruce and then with Christian Brown, they just have a level of grit and toughness that they haven't necessarily had. And I think one of the things that when I watch basketball across the league, I actually think the Denver Nuggets are one of the more physical teams in the NBA. Now, they might not play like heavy foul aggressive. They might not get into the lane as much as you would want them to. But again, when you get in the fourth quarter, the reason it's so difficult to score often is because you've got people like KCP on the perimeter, and he's going to do whatever he has to make the job hard for you.
100%, man. I loved what Michael Porter had to say about him after the Friday night game, where he called him maybe his favorite role, like his favorite player that he's ever played with, his favorite teammate that he's ever played with, just because of this year. It's been so brief that those guys have shared the court together, and yet KCP's made such an impact. And you love it when guys understand what the team is trying to do and are willing to buy in. Michael Malone's talked about sacrifice. Everybody has sacrificed. Nikola Jokic has sacrificed shot attempts. Jamal Murray has sacrificed being an all-star. AG has sacrificed shot attempts. Michael Porter sacrificed shot attempts. KCP, Michael Porter talked about on Friday night, how KCP has a larger bag on the offensive end than he's actually given credit for. And he doesn't show it because the team doesn't need him to. There will be times where he might have to break it out. But to me, I really do think that mentality, that sacrifice mentality, also plays into his dog mentality for really getting into people on the defensive end, because that is what the team needs right now. And I
Right.
think that will play out going forward. And it's one of the reasons why I just have so much confidence in this group.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly the same. And I think, again, we're going to see it. There's some really tough matchups that are coming up. Now, the Nuggets are going to have some room to play because they have a 6-game lead, Ryan. But because of the tiebreaker, do you look at it more like a 7-game lead? Because even if they tie, they're still going to have the tiebreaker advantage.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, let me just pull up the standings here real quick, so I'm not screwing this up. Yeah, Denver's got they have a 5-game lead in the loss column above Memphis right now, and which technically is 6 because Memphis has lost that tiebreaker. So you know that they have to win one more game than Denver. So it's technically 6 because Memphis hasn't played as many games. But right now, I just think Denver, they're in a great spot where you know that they can be a little bit more flexible with this. And then, like you said, they're going to have plenty of room to operate.
Right. Yeah. So, again, you got good matchups coming up, and I think their defense is going to have some real tests going forward.
Hopefully so. Before we head to a break here, we're going to forecast the playoff picture real quick. I'm going to ask you a brief question. Memphis is 2, Sacramento's 3, Phoenix is 4, Golden State's 5, Dallas 6, Minnesota 7, LA 8, the Clippers 8. Of those teams, which team are you looking at to see where are they going to finish? What are they going to look like? And how is Denver going to prepare for the first round, second round conference finals against that team? Which team are you most watching where they finish in the standings?
Yeah, I mean, it's easily the Suns. I think just because the level of talent they have, but I personally do think that the Suns, because they play the Kings twice over the next couple of weeks, they could move into that 3 seed. And so if you get an opportunity for them to move into the 3 seed, that could potentially be forecasting, if Denver take care of their business, the Western Conference Finals. And if they don't, meaning if Phoenix doesn't move into the 3 seed, then they're going to be playing you in the second round more than likely. Or if it gets real nasty, Ryan, it's going to be the Phoenix Suns versus the Golden State Warriors for the narrative of all narratives in the first round. So imagine if Kevin Durant loses to Steph Curry in the first round with a brand new super team, quote unquote. I'm telling you, it'll be real nasty. So it's absolutely the Phoenix Suns, because I think that given the talent level, I think that they're probably going to be one of the most, if not the most, them and the Warriors, the most formidable competition you can see in the playoffs.
I think you're probably right. I'm going to say Golden State just because I do think that the Suns are going to continue to rise no matter what, just with the talent that they have. Those guys aren't going to get hurt. Like, I think that the way that they play and the chemistry that they play, the Suns are going to rise pretty clearly, as long as the Kings don't have anything to say about it, which they certainly could. But Golden State, I'm thinking about, if they finish in that 4-5, it wouldn't surprise me. It also wouldn't surprise me if they finish 6th, because the playoff picture is just so jumbled up right now. If they do finish 6th and Phoenix finishes 3, that's probably the best chance that Denver has to get to an NBA Finals, just because you pit those teams against each other and you make sure that, hey, the 2 toughest matchups for Denver in the Western Conference, one of them is going home. That would be the best possible situation for Denver. Although part of me also thinks, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best in Denver. It would be so sweet. It would be so awesome if they could stick it to both of those teams that eliminated them each of the last 2 seasons.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Just for the fact that you could say you did it, if you could beat the Clippers in the first, Warriors in the second, and Suns in the third, and then you just imagine how quickly the narrative would change about the Nuggets.
Oh man, and just who cares about the East at that point? Like, you get through that West, and it don't matter. You're winning the title. It's be crazy. Right. So, all right, hey, tell you what, let's take our first break. When we come back, we are going to discuss the MVP race and all of the drama that has been surrounding that. But first, this podcast, folks, it's brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, no guys across the pond setting lines for American sports. Just the best team of odds makers in the business behind the counter at Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, Superbook features some of the best odds boost and promo bets anywhere. So download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com and start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right, we're back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Swipe a Cam. We are doing this over the weekends. Everybody, we've got plenty of folks in the comment section. Everybody, make sure to go give this a like. Make sure to share this out. Subscribe to both of our channels, both the Swipe a Cam YouTube channel and the MHS YouTube channel. This is being simulcast on both. So really exciting for this pairing. Really excited for the direction that this is going to go. And now, Swipa, we are excited to talk about this. The MVP race. Everything and anything to do with the MVP race. We're not going to do this every single week because I feel like if we do it every single week, it's just going to get, more saturated than it already is. But I do think that this is important for your audience and for my audience and for anybody that's kind of following the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic to really understand. This MVP race has been pretty dramatic. It's been to the point where there's a lot of wild takes that have been thrown out there, both for Jokic and against Jokic, although I don't really think that the wild for Jokic takes are that crazy, where he's averaging a triple-double. He's on the 1 seed. He's 70% true shooting. They're the best team in the West and have been the most consistent team in the West. He's played the most games. It shouldn't really be that dramatic. And it's not hard to make the case for Nikola, I don't think. The problem is that when everybody is looping in the 3-time MVP narratives, it, I think, convolutes the conversation. And it feels like everybody is just doing their best to take down Nikola Jokic over the course of these last few weeks.
Yeah. I personally think it's funny. I think that every year there's a new excuse. The first year, Embiid played 51 games. If he plays more, he would have won. The next year, he's the 6th seed, not fair, all that. This year, Jokic, the standard was before the season. If he averages a triple-double, something crazy like 70% true shooting, something crazy that this mid-team that's really not that good, quote-unquote, if they're the 1st seed, and all 3 of those things happen, and what happened was instead of just embracing the greatness that is Jokic, it became what is actually benefiting him and ailing other players that's allowing him to have a step up in the race. Now, whether the first 2 years, it was analytics, and the people that have propped up analytics were using analytics to make Jokic's MVP case illegitimate. And then it moved to, as of 2 weeks ago, when the Tim Bontemps poll came out and 77 people voted him 1st overall, now it's because he's white. And so I'm just like, all right, it's the analytics. He's white. He's a media darling in Denver, Colorado, by the way, the wonderful basketball city that it is, over in big markets like Philly and all that, right? And the narrative continues to shift because I think people genuinely are struggling with how do we identify with Jokic as a historically great player when he was never stamped as a blue chip prospect out of the draft like a lot of players were. Giannis is having an incredible year. 31, 12, 5. Its efficiency's gone up over the last month and a half as well. Embiid's averaging 33, 10, and 4 on 64% true shooting, 86% from the free throw line. That's asinine. And he's been a top 10 defender in the NBA this year. So there are multiple. Jason Tatum averaging 30 points a game on decent efficiency, around 60% true shooting. He's been a good defensive wing. He's inconsistent at times, but they've been number 1 for most of the year. So there are 4 legitimate players, including Luka, but Luka is obviously in a worse situation, that I think all have an argument. But the issue is I don't have to point at Giannis as the run and dunk man to illegitimize his MVP candidacy. I don't have to call Joel Embiid the free throw merchant. Those are great players. Those are all Hall of Fame level players in their prime. So I think the thing is the narrative about Jokic, because there's no real basketball attacking point, Ryan. The reason why people are attacking stuff that is so dumb, like stat padding and him being wide and analytics, is because you can't actually pick at his game because you're a plus 14 when he's on the court. And they've won 75% of the games he's played in this year, Ryan. 75%. So I think people don't have a basketball argument. So I think the narrative has shifted to things that we can make up because it makes it easier to deal with what's happening in front of us.
Let's go over the stat padding one real quick. I've had takes where and I've acknowledged that, look, sometimes they leave him in to get that 10th assist. Like, sometimes that happens when they probably it's like a minute too long. It's like, okay, it's a little bit in doubt, but not really in doubt. You could probably have pulled him. You could probably, like, it looks like, okay, he's really trying to get the 10th. He's really trying to make sure that barrier is crossed, but not necessarily out of his own personal self-interest. I think he just wants to. It's part of greatness, right? It's part of where he just had 100 triple-double. Like, it's now Jazz's 101st triple-double, having played against the Memphis Grizzlies over this last weekend. He has been fantastic. He has played the right way. 25-0 when he goes for this triple-double and actually gets it. And there have been several times this year that people don't really talk about in the national media where he has finished an assist short. He has finished a rebound short. Sometimes he doesn't get the points. Like, sometimes he just decides, I would prefer not to shoot in this game, and we'd like to get everybody else their numbers. It's not necessarily to get him assists. A lot of it is just, hey, I want to get Jamal going. I want to get Mike going. I want to get Aaron his numbers. He was trying to get Aaron into the All-Star game, like everybody was. I do think that a lot of this stat padding narrative comes down to, man, it would be really cool if Jokic got this for his own MVP conversation. But that's not the stat padding that Joker's going for. He wants to get everybody else their numbers. It's not about him. Assists make two people happy. Come on. Like, it should be easy to be able to dispel this. And he plays the right way every single time, never looking to make somebody look like an idiot on the basketball court. He's trying to do things the right way. And to see that, like, to see his integrity questioned over something like this is just horrible.
Yeah, to your point, remember he had that game in Chicago where he scored 8 points, had 6 rebounds, and 14 assists, and it was a blowout.
It was awesome.
A blowout. But Jokic has always been this way. Ryan, didn't last year we just watch Jokic versus Giannis in the Bucks when he had no Murray and Porter? Didn't he have like 18, 15, and 10 in 3 quarters? And then remember versus Portland, he had like 10 points, 18 rebounds, and double-digit assists. That's just how he plays. But if you're wanting to be a casual, and I mean you're choosing to be a casual, and you want to attack him for a lower shot profile, well, dude, go back to 2017 because he's been doing it ever since he was about that age. That's just the way he plays. He wants to make the right play. And for me, Ryan, the thing that frustrates me most is I understand that you didn't pick him. I understand you did not expect him to become this player. Ryan, neither did I, and neither did you. No one ever said he was going to be a 3-time MVP, and potentially, by the way, he could win more. But I think this is the part of the issue. But this is what I mean, Ryan, and I genuinely want your takes here. Because say everything happens the way the Nuggets want it to happen this year. Say he wins the MVP, they go to the finals, they either win or they lose the finals, whatever. Jokic, because of how durable he is, and because the Nuggets are going to get better, this is going to be a consistent thing. Because when Jordan didn't win, when 93, what happened? Charles Barkley had the first seed, crazy numbers, played more games. And then you had in 98, when Karl Malone won, Jordan, they stepped down in the stand, and Karl Malone and them shot up the board for the Utah Jazz, and they won the MVP award over them. So what I'm saying is if the Denver Nuggets are consistently good, and they keep churning out wins with a healthy roster, and Jokic is continuing to do what he's doing, Brian, this isn't going to stop until he wins a championship. So this is what I mean. If the public doesn't certify you, the media doesn't certify you as that guy, you have to certify yourself with a ring. And so once he does that, I think that's where everything changes. But right now, because he was the 41st overall pick, because people thought Anthony Davis was better than him up to 2020, people think to this day Joel Embiid is still better than him, even though the past 2 and now 3 MVPs hopefully will be selling another story. There will always be people that will have this narrative about you until you get it done. And to the point, in the playoffs, he's averaging over 30, 13, and 5 on good efficiency in the last 15 games, which is the 2 playoff runs. But he's 1-8, everybody brings up, as if you didn't have Facu Campazzo and Austin Rivers starting in some of these backcourts, So I think until the winning happens at the highest level, the narrative will only continue to get worse.
I'm with you. I do think that the game that they played on January 28th between Jokic and Embiid, that definitely set a lot of the narratives. It definitely set a lot of the discussion points around, okay, maybe Jokic isn't as good as his numbers say. Maybe because he can't guard Embiid in space, because it's not like Embiid isn't a fantastic player in his own right, that they couldn't do it. Let it be known that Embiid couldn't guard Jokic either. They literally took him off of the dude. They literally could not have that go, because it was a 15-point margin. And they decided, yeah, we're gonna go a different direction with this, because even a top 10 defender in your own right. Could not guard Joker.
So by that logic, Ryan, with what we just saw from the Bucks and 76ers, did James Harden now the leading MVP candidate over Giannis and Joel Embiid because he had 38, 10, and 9, and he was the best player on the court? But that's what I mean. Like, if we're just doing single game sample sizes, we just saw Julius Randle just absolutely smoke the Miami Heat. So, but this is what I mean. It's like, it has to be about your overall body of work over the course of a season. And Embiid, since that 47-18 game, he didn't come up too well yesterday, missing 2 late game free throws. And he also had some other games that he didn't play well and finish the game strong either. So my whole thing is that if you're going to hold one to high esteem because of one game, then it needs to continue to happen. But that just process makes no sense anyway. So I just think that, again, a lot of this is just picking at Jokic, picking at Murray, picking at Porter, picking at Gordon, picking at Malone, because they hadn't won.
I do think that the race is still undecided. That to me, even though there were 77 first place votes for Joker, I think he was the clear front runner at that point. And I've made mention of this on previous podcasts, previous shows, that Embiid still has an opportunity to close the gap. And so does Giannis, by the way. If those guys play well, obviously Giannis has been on a tear, and the Bucks have been on a tear for so long, but there's no doubt that they could win. And it would be deserved if they earned it. And they have opportunities to earn it, especially in Denver, March 25th between Bucks Nuggets, March 27th between Sixers Nuggets. Like, those matchups will matter in this. And if Joker does defend home court, like I think that he will, and if the Bucks and if the Sixers don't necessarily show up in the way that they did on their own home courts against the Nuggets, then there is a massive possibility that narrative that Jokic maybe isn't as good as these guys head to head, that could be completely dispelled on Denver's home court. And it would be amazing. It would be one of those things that you just live for as a Nuggets fan.
You know what's going to happen. Jokic, just to smite everyone, is going to have 10 points, 15 rebounds, and 14 assists in a win. And it's just, and Embiid's going to have 30, Giannis will have 30. And we're going to have this dumb argument again because he doesn't care. And, like, I think a part of this comes down to how you understand fundamental basketball. Are you just using counting stats and raw data? Like, there has to be a part of the storytelling. But I agree with you. I think the narrative is going to be very strong. But, again, the Nuggets are 27-2 in Denver when Jokic plays.
It's pretty good.
That's going to be a pretty big hump to overcome.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. It does seem like Denver, like we talked about in the last segment, just has an extra gear, and they will get up for that one. They know how much it matters. They know how much it matters to Joker, not necessarily from a personal, selfish MVP kind of standpoint, but just from, hey, you guys in the national media are like dispelling my character. You're trying to take me down. What are we doing? It's because I'm white? Is it because I stat pad? Like, come on, let's go get a W is probably what they're going to go for. And I think that is going to be, both of those games back to back are just going to be epic, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I cannot wait to potentially have this go. So, all right, looks like we've lost Swipa here real quick. Let's see if he pops back in. For everybody else, I do think that this is going to be a crazy time. There he is. This is going to be a crazy time for the Nuggets. It's going to be a crazy time for Nuggets fans. Don't get too caught up in all of the discourse. Don't get too caught up in all of that, because the Nuggets have higher plans than just for a third MVP, even if it is meaningful to a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So it's going to be good, Ryan. I'm excited. I am not as high on the MVP race anymore because of the last 2 weeks and really 2.5 weeks. So it is what it is. I do think Joker's going to win just because of how late in the season the straw poll was. And I think in the 6 years Bontemps has done it, it's never changed from the last straw poll to come out. And I think, again, it's not like Jokic just stopped winning. He's kept winning. And he's beaten the Memphis Grizzlies, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and who did they beat? And the Clippers. And then I think those are the three. They played 4 times, right, since the All-Star break?
Well, I think no, I think
Or
because they played
Memphis
Houston
too.
too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they've been winning against good teams since then. So we'll see.
We will see. It should be a lot of fun. Tell you what, let's take another break on the audio side. When we come back, we are going to go over this next week. Going to share some general thoughts, and we're gonna debut a new segment, folks. Going to be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a good time with it. We will be right back, and we're back. Swipa Cam here. Weekends with Swipa. Ryan Blackburn here on the Pickaxe and Roll feed. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. For everybody tuning in, we've got a large audience on the Sunday afternoon. This is crazy. Thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. Doing really well here. We're gonna have a good time with this. So Blanco says the dream team. Thank you very much for that. Much love, guys. Much love. Let's get into this upcoming week, Swipa. We've got some interesting games for the Nuggets, although it does really slow down over the course of these next couple until those aforementioned games against Milwaukee and against Philly on March 25th and March 27th in 3 weeks. This next week, Denver's going to play 3 home games and then 1 road game in the middle, which is just a jaunt over to San Antonio. They play Toronto at home. They play Chicago at home. They play San Antonio on the road, and they play Brooklyn at home. Some interesting Eastern Conference teams there that are kind of all in that same tier right now where you're not really sure who they are. You're not really sure what you're figuring from them. Which of those games do you have your eyeballs on, and which of them would you circle for Nuggets fans to really pay attention to?
Well, Jamal Murray made 4 3-pointers last game, correct? I believe versus Memphis.
Oh no, I think it was way lower than that. I think it was like 2 or something absurd.
No, I think Porter made 2. He was 2 of 7. Murray, I think, was 4 of 8.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, you're right. You remember better than I.
Right. So I think he's 7 away from the record. I want to say something like that.
Yep.
So I think home in Toronto will Barton come back in town? You think Jamal Murray will gun for it and try to see if he can hit 7?
I would love to see that. I love it when Jamal takes those personally. I love it when he has an opportunity. Just going back through the box score here, Jamal did make 4, so he is 7 away from the franchise record for made threes for a career. That is going to be a fun time. And with Will Barton he was bought out by Washington, picked up by Toronto, has played in multiple games since that buyout. So he's a part of things there. Going to be interesting. And I do think that if those guys line up against each other, maybe when Murray staggers with the bench and Will Barton's out there, those guys will guard each other. They'll have a good time with it. And I do think that Jamal will be in his ear on that, saying, I am going to go get this tonight. I am going to go get this, and you are going to have to watch. And it's going to be playful and it's going to be fun. But I do think that those guys, because of the good relationship that they have, will get a kick out of seeing Jamal put up 12 threes in order to try to get 7.
Yeah, and also, too, the Toronto Raptors have been a slightly different team since they got Jakob. He's been playing really well. He's a good defender. Offensively, he's had a couple good games as well. So having OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, that's a good defensive front court. And we'll see, how the different Nuggets decide they want to handle that. Jokic has had his way with Jakob in the past, including in the playoffs in 2019 to now. So we'll see how that matchup looks. And then Ryan, they got the Chicago Bulls. And, Zach LaVine's another one of those like Jamal Murray players I think about, like another player that's like got a level Murray been so far in his career, but in the playoffs, I think you can argue that Jamal's been better. But I think that like Zach LaVine's another nice matchup for Jamal Murray to go after with DeMar DeRozan on the court as well. Hopefully future Nugget Alec Caruso is going to be playing during that game. Patrick Williams, and then obviously Vooch. So that's going to be another good matchup to get another Eastern Conference win. Again, the Bulls are not playing super well, but they can still surprise you at times. And so they just got done playing the Suns and got pretty handily beat. So that's going to be a good matchup. Then you're playing against Jeremy Sohan, and you're playing against the Spurs. And, I mean, again, long team, Devin Vassell, not a good team. They've been losing a lot, but, again, another great opportunity. And that looks like it's going to be with the Brooklyn Nets ending out the week. I don't know if you've been watching, but Mikal Bridges just dropped another 40 ball on another great defense. He did it versus the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, and then he did it again versus Jason Tatum in the Boston Celtics. So
wild.
That's going to be a serious matchup with a bunch of wings. So I'm actually really excited for this next week.
There's going to be a lot of – I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. at Ball Arena. Obviously, they don't have to play the Spurs here. They get to play the Spurs in San Antonio. That'll be a good show for the San Antonio fans, I think. But in general, it should be a lot of fun to go up against these various matchups. And that Toronto game with Jakob Poeltl is now there. He's going to be the starting center going against Jokic. That should be a good battle between those two. And the way that they switch on the perimeter should be very interesting for Jamal as well. Although if they do have a non-switchable five in Poeltl, wouldn't surprise me if Jamal still goes off in that particular game. But the Chicago one, as you mentioned, you're going to have KCP guarding Zach LaVine. You're going to have Aaron Gordon if he's healthy, and if everybody stays healthy, guarding DeMar DeRozan, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. I do think that the last time that Chicago came to Denver, they put on a major show. It's a little bit different now. It was back in November last year for last season, and it was a game that I think Jokic had to sit out due to suspension after the Markieff Morris thing, if I'm not mistaken. But there's just a lot. There's a lot to think about with this group. There's a lot to think about with some of these teams coming in. There's talent on these teams, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of them are considered disappointments. Toronto, obviously, with Pascal, OG, Scotty Barnes, kind of a little bit disappointing, even though he's still good, but not a little bit disappointing. I think Brooklyn, the way that things went was disappointing, but like you mentioned, Mikal Bridges, that's a lot of fun to watch now. And those fans I'm sure, are having a nice little treat, not having the pressure that comes with the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving saga. But we'll see, man. We'll see. It should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that for sure. Real quick, non-Nuggets game of the week. I have Milwaukee at Golden State on Saturday, March 11th on ABC. There's a couple of games that I could have gone with, including a Golden State versus Memphis game. But I do think that this one should be really fun for Nuggets fans to watch, just because you get to see an MVP candidate and a title contending team in Giannis go up against a returning Steph Curry, who should be playing today against the Los Angeles Lakers. Should be very fascinating to see those teams go at it. I think it should be interesting to see how Golden State handles Giannis, because I think that reflects kind of how they'll go at Jokic again.
Yeah, it's funny. If you listen to some people in the Golden State camp, they have an interesting take on Giannis's overall game. They think he's very good, but I do wonder with Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, how they're going to defend him and see if they're going to build a wall around him or not. Maybe Andrew Wiggins will be back available for that game. So again, they're on a mission. Klay Thompson's looked really good since Steph has been out. So if you have Klay, you got Jordan, you got Steph. How are the Milwaukee Bucks with Drew Holiday and apparently Grayson Allen is actually Reggie Miller? We just didn't realize it because he had 20 points in the third quarter yesterday. So they're going to have a lot of good defenders to throw at Steph Curry and them. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game. And again, if the Warriors they end up running through the West, that legitimately could be a finals opportunity as well. So it should be a really good game for everybody's healthy.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people still think that could happen. Still think that Golden State could put this together. And it doesn't matter what happened over the first 60 games. When Steph, Klay, and Draymond play together, they're generally unstoppable. And I understand that logic because it's been borne out over a full decade now. So I get it. I do understand. The only teams that have really stopped them are LeBron with the Cavs and the Toronto Raptors when Klay got hurt and KD went down too. So it's crazy to think about. I do think that when those guys are all healthy, it makes them so difficult and so dangerous. And it's one of the reasons why I'm watching them in the standings and trying to think, okay, where are they going to finish versus where Phoenix is going to finish? How is that going to affect the entire bracket? It's something that Nuggets fans should keep an eye on. But I do think I have a lot of respect for Golden State, the way that they are extremely dangerous. We will see.
Right, I agree. So, yeah, we'll have to see. We got from response curve. I really want the Nuggets to beat a healthy Warriors so the Nuggets can get their respect. Yeah. You know what? Even if they do it, they're going to make up excuses that the Warriors couldn't win on the road this season. So until you win a ring, it's not going to happen. I'm trying to tell you. And they're going to, what they said last year, Jokic had the great game. Well, they don't have a real center. So, again, that's just the way it goes. But I think it's going to be a really good week. And by the way, Ryan, I don't know if you know this. Well, of course you know this because you're Ryan Blackburn. The Denver Nuggets are 7-1 in their last 8 games with 4 winnable games coming up this week. Ryan, before we go, do you think that there's an opportunity that they can extend their 3-game win streak to a possible 7?
I think it's possible. Although one of my this is a great segue actually to takes from the future. I thought that this is takes from the future is what we're going to do this every week. We're going to talk about, hey, what is going to happen this upcoming week that we're then going to be talking about on the next show. I think the Nuggets are going to lose one of these games at home. I think it's going to be there's going to be a lot of hysteria. There's going to be a lot of drama. People are going to laugh at the Nuggets when Jokic only has 18 points on 15 shots and somebody like Nick Claxton just does a great thing against them. And maybe that's what happens where they lose to Brooklyn on this upcoming Sunday. And then we have to talk about that. And we're going to have to experience that narrative where, oh man, I can't believe the Jokic didn't really lift them up over the Nets. How could he? But that's my take from the future. That's what's going to happen. They will have a 6-game winning streak heading into that Brooklyn game. People are going to watch it and they're going to see Jokic only have 18 points and like 4 assists or something like that. And they're going to think, man, what a non-MVP. How dare he have a bad game?
Or they win all 4 games, and instead of giving Jokic and them the love, what they're going to say is they're going to up the ridiculous takes to, all right, Jokic is winning because he's white, to Jokic is winning because he's an alien. And then we're going to have to hear that because he's not a human being and he's actually a supercomputer, that's why he's dominating the MVP race. And then that's why the numbers are so outrageous. So future prediction is I'm going to go the opposite of you. I'm going to say if everybody's healthy and they actually play everyone, they're going to win all 4 games. And we're going to come back this time next Sunday. Man, we got a nice win streak going.
7-game win streak heading into the next show would be awesome. It would be great for all the narrative discussion, great for all the extracurriculars that are going on this. But in general, I do think that the Nuggets are stamped. I don't think that there's anything that they can do between now and the end of the season where it's really going to change my opinion of them. It would be like, let's say they fold against the Bucks and the Sixers and the Suns when they go on the road or something like that. Then I'd be like, okay, this is a little bit bad. But in general, I do think that they're stamped unless something weird happens. And I just don't expect that to happen. I expect them to defend home court. I expect them to play a strong game. And even if they lose a random one to the Nets, I think that'll make them even more hungry against some of these other title contending teams.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So it's going to be fun. Ryan, I'm really excited, man. I think that people are going to get great content from us on the weekends and also, maybe more during the week as well. But I think it's going to be really good, man. It's an honor to be working with you, man. I think that you're great at what you do, bro. So I'm really excited to see how we make a lot of great content going forward about the Denver Nuggets. Man,
talk about an honor. I get to have the great Swipa Cam on my show every week. It's going to be fantastic. We are going to have a grand old time. And let me tell you, man, the post championship celebration is going to be amazing on this show. It's going to be great. We're going to have a fantastic time. For everybody else in the comments, make sure to give this a like. Make sure to have a great day. We are going to enjoy the rest of your weekend before the week starts. We are going to sign off now, but really appreciate all the love, really appreciate all the support on this show. Weekends with Swipa, gonna be a weekend staple for everybody. Don't know if it's gonna be at noon all the time, but this was a great day and a great time for us to get it started. For everybody else, that is gonna do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by Superbook Sports. He is Swipa Cam. I'm Ryan Blackburn. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate all the love. We'll see you guys next week.